Hey there, and welcome. Today, we are going to put two very different retirement savings strategies in the ring together. On one side, we've got the familiar 401k, and on the other, a popular alternative you might be hearing more about, the Indexed Universal Life Policy, or IUL for short.
But before we dive in, let me ask you something. You're working hard, you're saving money, you're watching that retirement balance grow. But what if that whole nest egg, your life savings, is sitting in a giant tax trap you don't even see coming?
Now, that might sound a little over the top, I know, but this warning comes from David M. Walker, who used to be the nation's top accountant, basically. And what he was saying is that with our rising national debt and things like Social Security and Medicare, the government is going to need a lot more money down the road. And where do they get that money? Well, that puts a huge question mark over what our tax rates will look like in the future.
And that leads us right to the heart of the retirement tax dilemma. For decades, the advice has always been the same, right? Defer your taxes, put it off because you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. But with the national debt climbing higher and higher, that long-held belief is really starting to get questioned.
I mean, think about it. Procrastinating on your taxes is a great strategy if rates go down or stay the same. But what if they go up? You could end up paying way more in taxes on a much, much bigger pile of money. And get this, according to our sources, something like 90% of all retirement savings in America is sitting in these tax-deferred accounts.
Okay, so let's start with the one most of us know, the one that's probably in your benefits package at work, the 401k, or, a similar account like an IRA. This is going to be our baseline for the whole comparison.
So how's it work? It's pretty simple. You put money in before it gets taxed, which is great because it lowers your taxable income today. Then, that money grows year after year without taxes taking a bite out of it. But, and this is a big but, when you finally retire and you want to start using that money, every single dollar you pull out gets taxed as regular income. The sources we looked at have a great way of putting it. It's like asking the government to tax the harvest, not the seed. All right, now let's pivot and look at this alternative that's been gaining some steam, Indexed Universal Life Insurance. This thing comes at the whole retirement problem from a totally different direction.
So, at its heart, an IUL is a life insurance policy. It's permanent, meaning it's designed to last your whole life. But the really interesting part is the cash value component. See, the growth of that cash isn't directly invested in the stock market, but its performance is linked to a market index, like the S&P 500.
Here's the basic flow. When you pay your premiums into an IUL, the money gets split up. Part of it goes to cover the actual cost of the life insurance death benefit and any fees. But the rest of it? That gets funneled into your cash value account, and that's the part that's set up to grow.
Now this right here, this is the fundamental trade-off of an IUL. You get something called a floor, which is usually set at 0%. What that means is, if the stock market has a terrible year and goes down 20%, your cash value doesn't lose a single penny. You are protected. But here's the trade-off. You also have a cap. So if the market has a fantastic year and goes up 25%, your gains might be capped at, say, 10%. You're basically trading away the highest of the highs to completely get rid of the lowest of the lows.
Okay, so we've got the tax the harvest 401k and the floor and cap IUL. Let's really put them side by side now and look at the stuff that really matters. Taxes, how much you can contribute, and when you can get your hands on your money. Okay, the biggest difference is right here on this slide. With your 401k, you get a tax break now on your contributions, but then you pay taxes on every penny you take out in retirement. The IUL is the exact opposite. You pay with after-tax money, so no tax break today. But when you access the money later, it's completely tax-free, usually by taking loans against your cash value. It's that classic choice. Do you want to pay tax on the small seed or the giant harvest?
Next up, how much can you put in? Well, the IRS has very strict limits on how much you can stuff into a 401k or IRA every year. IUL policies, though, they don't have those IRS limits, and that's a big reason they can be attractive to high-income earners who've already maxed out their 401ks and are just looking for another place to save for the future in a tax-advantaged way.
And this slide is all about flexibility. If you need to pull money out of your 401k before you're 59 and a half, you usually get smacked with a 10% penalty, plus you have to pay income tax on it. Ouch! With an IUL, you can actually borrow against your cash value pretty much any time for any reason without those taxes or penalties. And another thing, 401ks force you to start taking money out when you hit age 72. They're called required minimum distributions. With an IUL, nope, no one's forcing you to take a dime.
But look, let's be real. No financial product is a magic wand. And to really give you the full story, we have to talk about the fine print and the potential downsides. especially with something as complex as an IUL.
Okay, so first, we already talked about the cap. It means you're going to miss out on those huge record-breaking years in the market. Second, there are fees and insurance costs inside the policy, and if you don't fund it properly, those costs can really eat into your returns. Third, these things are complicated. You need a knowledgeable professional to design it the right way. A really big risk is that if the policy isn't funded enough, it could lapse, and if you have loans against it, that could create a massive tax bill out of nowhere. And finally, don't forget, it's life insurance. You have to actually qualify for it, both medically and financially.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, what our sources suggest is that maybe we shouldn't even think of a 401k and an IUL as direct competitors. They're really just different tools for different jobs. A 401k is a pure, straightforward retirement savings plan. An IUL is more of a long-term wealth building and protection tool. In fact, a lot of advisors say you should definitely max out your 401k, especially if you get a company match, before you even think about an IUL as an extra piece of the puzzle.
And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. When it comes to your own retirement plan, in a world where we just don't know what taxes will look like, are you only planning for the harvest, or have you also thought about the seed? Thanks for tuning in.